From Studio K at Foxboro Cable Access.
Saffron is essentially the stamen of a rose.
Feeling creative?
Sage has a great flavor.
Is your palate needing a new challenge? Well, let's cook with Mike Damasio.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Let's Cook with Mike. My name is Mike Damasio and I'll be your chef host today. We're in wonderful Studio K, ready to go in beautiful downtown Foxboro for another episode of Let's Cook with Mike. It's blustery out there, looks like a winter scene, and we're still in October. But we're going to warm you up with some a classic Italian traditional rice dish called risotto. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it before, possibly even had it before. I'm going to show you how to make it here in about 20 to 25 very quick minutes. What we're going to make today, what kind of risotto, is we're going to do a butternut squash and green pea risotto. Requires a lot of butter, some grated cheese. We're going to make a great vegetable broth. We're going to have some chicken and grilled portobello on top as for our entrees. And we're going to make it the plate pop with some very pretty purple cauliflower. And if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's cook. We're going to start here by warming up the pan for our vegetable broth. All right. So we got the water, 3 cups of water in there. We're going to add some gluten-free vegetable base once that water heats up. Now we're going to start with the risotto. So what I have here is a cup of arborio rice. It's a very starchy rice that's perfect for making risotto. I'm going to glove up, but lucky me, here in Studio K, I don't have to mask up. All right, I'm going to get some oil here. I use a little oil and butter mixture for the risotto to get it started. You'll see we're going to end up using, I have about a 1 stick of butter right here that we're going to end up going through for this. It's very creamy, very rich dish, and so delicious. So while the butter starts to melt, we'll start with some of our prep here. So right now what we're waiting for is the butter to melt, the water to boil, and we're going to start getting on our vegetables. So butternut squash, very dense, right? So we're going to cut these pieces into a small dice because we're going to cook it along with the risotto. But we're not going to do it right away. We're going to let the risotto cook a little bit because it's going to take a while. It's going to be the longest part of our journey today. And then I'm going to add these pieces probably about halfway through so it'll get nice and soft and it'll be al dente just like the rice will be when we're done. So I got a good melt there in the butter. I'm just going to add this risotto, the arborio rice in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to toast this a little bit. All right, just going to help the risotto start to extract the nice starches. And once we start adding the broth and the butter, you'll see how it gets rich and creamy as we start to progress along. So we're going to get this, I'm going to add about a tablespoon of vegetable broth to our water here. There's different variations. I like to keep things as vegetarian as possible. At home now, my wife has gone to a more stricter vegetarian / vegan diet. So I've been doing a lot more vegan cooking at home. And it's great because then you can serve it to anybody. If you keep your proteins on the side, your meat proteins, you can still serve everyone. The food's going to taste just as delicious. And it can be shared by carnivores and vegisauruses alike. All right, so we'll keep cutting our butternut squash. So you can see I got nice little small squares. These won't take too long to cook once we get them in the broth with the rice. We're just going to put these aside for now. Our risotto is starting to toast up a little bit. The broth is getting nice and hot. I'm going to throw another few chunks of butter in there, and we're going to start getting the broth into our risotto dish. So this is just, you add very little bit at a time. I know when you cook regular rice, you put it all in together, you put it on low, and you walk away. Risotto is just a little different. You want to cook it nice and slow to extract all those starches so that it gets nice and creamy. Obviously, another big ingredient in this dish is the Parmesan cheese, which is going to help make it delicious in the end. All right, you'll see as we go along, we're going to be using a little more of the broth. It's going to get absorbed very quickly by the rice. You'll start to see it thickening, becoming creamy as we go. The butter's going to help make it keep shiny so that it gets beautiful. So we got about the right amount of butternut squash right there. This is going to be enough to feed, 4 or 5 people in no time. All right, we're going to prepare some of the other stuff that we're going to need for further on down the road. All the while, we have to keep watching this. We don't want to get this too dry. We want to keep it while it's creamy, just like that. I'm going to go get another scoop. Again, this is about 3.5 cups of broth to the 1 cup of arborio rice. We may not use all of this broth, but best to have more than not enough. All right. So I have some basil here. Now, I bought this basil yesterday and it looked beautiful. It really turned very quickly, but it doesn't mean the flavor's any worse. Imperfect produce is a big deal in our food service industry these days. Try to help the farmers that, might not have a great crop. The food is still delicious and nutritious. It just doesn't look so beautiful as as perfect as it could be, but that does not affect the flavor. So what I'm doing, this is the chiffonade or ribbon cut, very popular. Nice and consistent. And as I mentioned before, we're also going to do some chicken and grilled portobello. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put some salt and pepper on our chicken here. And then we're going to clean that portobello so that it's ready to go when we're ready to grill. As you know, my Studio K kitchen is a challenge in itself, just by the amount of equipment that I have. As you can see, that's all I have. 2 induction burners. A little salt and pepper. As you can see, I'm going to change my gloves. Why? I touched raw chicken. We want to make sure we keep our hands and everybody safe throughout this process. All right, so once again, I'm going to add a little more broth. This time I'm also going to add a little more butter. And I'm going to start to incorporate the Parmesan cheese into this dish. Let's get the glove on. Now the broth doesn't have to be hot. I like cooking it with the hot. I think it just reacts with the rice a lot quicker, speeds up the process of the cooking. What a nice chunk of butter here. Delicious. Get the other glove on. Again, slowly but surely, the rice will absorb the broth as we go throughout this process. The butter will melt. The dish will become more and more creamy. Add some Parmesan. And again, we're going to do a few layers. It's almost like building a lasagna when you make risotto, except you do it as it's cooking. So you're going to be, rice, broth, butter, cheese. Broth, butter, cheese. You do it for a few more cycles. I usually go the last few cycles without the cheese because I find that the Parmesan will get a little bit salty and we just don't want to over salt it. You'll notice when I'm making this, I will not add any salt to this dish because I'm going to let the cheese handle all of that. I do like my pepper. There you go. So this is coming along really nice and slow. Again, I don't have it on a full heat like I do the broth here, which I'm actually going to remove because I think I have a good amount. So we're going to pause this. I'm going to pour this into my bowl. All right. Get rid of that. And what we're going to do now is we're going to clean this portobello. Portobellos are pretty, they can be pretty dirty, all right? I already rinsed this one out, but I left this part on here so I can show you what I do. Just for better texture and purposes, I like to remove this part. You don't have to, but I like to. Great for compost. Don't throw it away. Get a compost bucket, all your vegetables. If you do any kind of gardening, if you have a flower pot in your house, add this stuff after a few months. It just helps everything grow. Use the natural fertilizers here. makes a mess. No two ways about it. Makes a mess. Fortunately, I have a barrel at my disposal. Studio K got it all. All right. So I'm going to get my grilling apparatus here. Get this on for sear. We're going to start that. This will heat up in just a second. What we're going to do is we're going to grill the chicken and the portobello on there, and then we're going to set them aside as the risotto becomes more and more done, and that's going to be our final piece of the puzzle when we're done later here. All right, as you can see, the risotto is looking good. You can tell it's a little sticky on the bottom. Don't worry, just move it around. Nothing is burning. I'm going to take more of this broth. I mean, the best part of all is the smell as this comes together. So this isn't a meal that you can just put on the stove and walk away from. Risotto takes a lot of love, but the results are well worth it. Add a little more butter. This is the point where I'm going to add my butternut. Okay, I think we got enough water in there. This is why I go a little more than what's typically needed. For instance, if you were making rice, it's usually a 2-to-1 ratio, where the water would be 2 cups, rice would be 1 cup. With the risotto, because you're doing it over a long process, you're going to get a little more evaporation and absorption of the water. This arborio rice absorbs a little more than regular rice. So you need a little bit more than just the 2-to-1 ratio. I find 3-to-1 works well. And then if you're adding stuff like the vegetables here, or if you're adding a protein or shrimp, it's going to need more water. So you want to make sure you always have a little bit more water. I might even come up a little short. And at that point, I think we have enough broth that just using regular water to finish this dish would be perfectly fine. My grill's getting nice and hot. We're just going to do something simple here. I already salt and peppered my chicken. Throw a little bit of oil here. This is when the fun happens here in Studio K. Sometimes we get a lot of smoke. We've had our fine first responder firemen come on in and get us through some smoky times. We're just gonna, oh, even got a sear, just like on an outside grill. Doing top side down, again, change my glove. Touching the chicken. They say at my house I go through too many of the gloves, but I haven't killed anybody yet. Well, that's good. Here's the other problem with gloves. When your hands are sweaty, tough to get these things on and off. But we're going to let our chicken grill right there, and I'm going to give a little bit of oil to our portobello. Just rub it all up that side. A little more, just a little dash. You don't need too much. The oil will go a long way. We're going to go top down first. Get some good grill marks on that. Delicious. Risotto's coming along beautifully. It's going to start to absorb, start to cook that butternut squash. It's great. Everything is coming great. A little bit more butter. Now the peas, my peas are thawed here. If you have frozen peas, you'd probably want to start them a little earlier as well. But again, they'll take just a few moments. So we're going to add them at the end. And again, the green color with the orange and the white, you're going to see the dish pop. We're going to add the purple around the outside perimeter of it. Top it with our proteins. This is going to be gorgeous. Just going to take a little lemon. Take a little wedge here. Make sure I get the seeds out. And again, just a little bit of a lemon squeeze. Now at different points in time, for instance, when I first started this dish and I had the arborio rice cooking with the butter right in the beginning before I added any broth. At that point, it's a nice time to add a little bit of white wine to the dish. Traditionally, classic Northern Italian style, you would add white wine at that point. Reduce it down just a little bit so there's still some liquid in there, and then start adding your broths and butters. And it just adds a different flavor, different technique. But yeah, again, you can use veggie broth, beef broth, chicken broth, anything, lobster broth. Risotto is very versatile. Any time of year is delicious. Any ingredients. So as you can see, I got the butternut squash. We are in the fall here. 'Tis the season. We got beautiful orange color. And then the green's gonna make it pop. We're getting some good grill marks on our, I don't know if it's George Foreman, but it's similar to. Even our little portobello is looking great there. Again, I like to use the chicken thigh. I've mentioned it on shows before. I prefer the chicken thigh. I know everybody, the white meat's better for you, blah, blah, blah. I like flavor. I'll take flavor over health. Not too much different, but I'll take the flavor. Again, very simply marinated, nothing major, salt, pepper. We're gonna let the risotto do the talking for the flavor. All right, once again. Now I know I just put the butternut squash in here, so I know the butternut squash is not ready. But what I want to do is I want to see where I'm at with my rice. Should still get a little bit of a crunch here. It shouldn't be fully cooked. We still got about almost a cup of broth left to go. So I'm just going to give it a taste, and I like to try it. A little bit of a bite. Ooh, the Parmesan is delicious. Starting to get a little bit of the butternut flavor in there. That's going to explode more the more we go. You're going to get more and more of that flavor oozing out. While we have some time, I'm just going to cut up my cauliflower just to get it in bite-sized pieces. Got the core. Just want to take that core out. It's a little too chunky. You know, cauliflower, broccoli, they have this, you know, individual portion sizes already done up for you. All you have to do is just separate it. You can make them as little as you want, like this. You can keep them as big as you want. But they have the pieces here for you to make the size as big or small as you like. Don't even need a knife. So this is going to look great around the plate. I mean, we got these colors bursting. This is going to be a beautiful dish. All right, let's get these back in. All right. Now our focus is just finishing up this risotto, getting our proteins off. We're going to saute up the delicious cauliflower. Let's see where we're at here. What did I say? Just about a cup of broth left. I'm going to do just a half at a time here to finish it up. I don't want to overcook. I don't want to have too much broth. I want to make sure everything gets absorbed. So at this point, as we're starting to wind down the process, we want to make sure that we don't get this too liquidy or too dry. Again, there's a little stick on the bottom, but as you can see, as I move the whisk around, it comes right off. There's so much butter here, I'm surprised anything's sticking. Only to your ribs. I'm going to add another few pieces of butter here, a little more Parmesan. I'm going to add the peas. The chicken's looking really good. Overall, I'll probably end up using half a cup to 3/4 of a cup of Parmesan cheese. It's not too much. It's just enough. Again, it is a salty cheese. You don't want to overdo it. It will reflect in the end. Having the butternut there will help lessen the salt intensity. But you can see, I mean, look how deliciously creamy that is. All right, let's add our green peas. And there's pop goes the vegetables. I'm also going to add my basil. The risotto is, the rice, arborio rice is absorbing the liquid quicker now, which means it's getting more and more saturated. And this will probably be the last. I think I did exactly the right amount. I'm going to bring this back up to a little bit of a boil. Let this risotto absorb the last of this broth. All right. I'm going to take, that was for my raw chicken. This is going to be for my cooked chicken and my cooked portobello. Got a deliciously grilled portobello here. And once they're cooked, they can share a plate. When they're both raw, I like to keep them separate. Let's see how we're doing with our chicken. That looks pretty damn good. The This is cable. I can say damn. At home I do have thermometers and all sorts of things, but most of my cooking is done by touch and sight at home. At work, obviously, I have much stricter policies and procedures to follow, but at home, been doing it a while. But it's always good to have a pocket thermometer with you just to check. You want to make sure this stuff is cooked through. Never had it, don't ever want it, but I'm sure salmonella, you don't want to give that to any of your guests. We're almost done. I'll tell you, shower caps and smoke detectors, good company when you're cooking in Studio K. I'm lowering the heat of my risotto because everybody's going to be sharing this with me. I'm going to use another tasting spoon. That way, everybody can have some later. Oh boy, does this look good. Lots of colors. I mean, you know, did we add a lot of flavor? Not really. We're really letting this do it all by itself. You know, salt and pepper. Just try to get the rice here again. See where we're at. We're ready for eating. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to let the risotto sit and rest. I'm going to get my cauliflower here. We're just going to do a nice simple cauliflower saute. Again, very simple. Little oil, little butter. And then we'll be able to plate. Get this pan nice and hot. Plating's the best part. I know the crew here loves to dine at the end of the show here. I try to make it all right for them. Strange new world we are in these days. Being in a kitchen, at work, seeing all my employees and myself, we're all in masks, we're all in gloves, we're in face masks, all the food is packaged. I work in a school to serve the students. It's different, but we're getting through it, and we'll all get through it together. And hopefully someday we'll be able to go see concerts and sporting events and all together again. Hopefully not too long. All right, let's get our cauliflower in there. Just getting a little few tablespoons of water to help the cauliflower cook through. Again, very simple. Seasonings, just a little salt and pepper. Cauliflower on its own, it's just one of my favorite vegetables. And purple cauliflower just adds a little different, right? I mean, we're all used to the white cauliflower. It might be a little bit more expensive, but you know what? To jazz up a plate to make it look nicer for whatever reason. Want to just impress. This is just going to help the cooking process. All right. Let that cook for a little bit. We can actually start the plate here. We have our fine Studio K china ready to go. Delicious. All right. So first we're going to plate our risotto as everything finishes up here. Oh. Wow. This one will be for our vegetarians. I know I might be out of shot here. Sorry, guys. Boys in the studio and Deb working hard today. Like mailmen, they made it through the weather. Too beautiful. I mean, those look good enough as it is. We're gonna make it better. Beautiful. Cauliflower's looking good. Take the chicken off. Nice thin strips. It cooked. Delicious. Trying to think what I should charge these guys in the booth today for this meal. And then this is the pop. Beautiful purple cauliflower. Makes it all come together. I'm going to clear up my board here so I can get this here. Might have broke a land speed record with this risotto today. All you need is some good heat and good friends to watch you cook. Ladies and gentlemen, here we have our butternut squash green pea risotto topped with grilled chicken thigh and purple cauliflower, and the same dish here topped with some grilled portobello. Enjoy your meal. Thanks for coming. I appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time on Let's Cook with Mike.